Your lower back is lying to your mirror. Every morning you look at your face and you see something shifting. The jaw is softer than it was 5 years ago. The skin under your chin hangs differently. You've tried the creams, maybe you've considered the injections, and the entire time the answer has been 2 feet south of where anyone told you to look. There is a muscle in your lower back, one specific muscle, that is pulling your face downward, right now, while you're listening to this. And the reason nobody connected those two things for you is a problem that goes back over 100 years. I want to challenge you on something. You've probably spent years thinking about your face as a face problem, a surface problem, a skin problem, something that dermatologists handle and cosmetic procedures fix. And I understand that because every message you've received about facial aging has reinforced exactly that idea. But I tracked something down, and what I found changes the order of operations completely. There are 5 levels of connection between your lower back and your jawline. 5 physical, structural, measurable levels where tension in the muscles below your waist affects the tissue above your collarbone. And the deeper you go, the closer you get to level 1, the more the whole picture of facial aging after 40 comes apart and reassembles into something you've never been shown. Level 5 is where everyone should start. Most people never even hear about level 3. Level 1 is the one that rewrites everything. Let me trace the path. But first, you need to understand why this path was invisible for so long. In the 1860s, when anatomical science was really formalizing how doctors learn the body, something happened that shaped medicine for the next 150 years. Anatomists divided the body into regions: the head, the thorax, the abdomen, the pelvis, the limbs. Each region got its own chapter in the textbook. Each region trained its own specialists. And that made sense for surgery. If someone came in with a facial wound, you needed a surgeon who knew the facial anatomy. If someone had a lower back injury, you needed someone who understood spinal mechanics. Regional specialization saved lives. The problem is that regional specialization also created a wall in how doctors think, a conceptual wall. The face became the domain of one group of specialists. The lower back became the domain of another. And the tissue that runs continuously between them, the unbroken sheet of connective material that links your lumbar region to your forehead, fell into a gap between 2 departments. Neither group studied the full length of it because neither group owned the full length of it. That division was a product of the 1860s. We still operate inside it. Consider what that means. Every time you've gone to someone about your face, about the sagging, the heaviness, the loss of definition along the jaw, they examined you from the collarbone up, because that's the region they were trained to treat. The possibility that the structural cause lives below the waist was never on the diagnostic checklist. Not because the evidence was missing, because the map was drawn with a border in the wrong place. This is where the countdown begins. Level 5, the anchor. Deep in your lower back, running from the bottom of your last rib down to the top of your pelvis, there's a thick, square-shaped muscle on each side of your spine. Doctors call it the Quadratus lumborum, but what matters is what it does, not what it's called. This muscle stabilizes your entire trunk. When you stand, when you sit, when you bend sideways, this muscle is the reason your spine doesn't simply fold. Think of your body as a tensioned cable system. Every cable needs an anchor point, a fixed structure that absorbs load and keeps the rest of the system under controlled tension. That lower back muscle is the anchor. It doesn't move much. It doesn't need to. Its job is to hold position while everything above it responds to gravity, movement, and posture. When that anchor changes, when it shortens, when it stiffens, when decades of sitting and compensating and guarding make it grip in a way it was never designed to grip, the entire cable system above it receives a different tension signal. The cables don't go slack, they tighten. They tighten in a pattern that follows the structure upward, link by link, all the way to your skull. And your face is attached to your skull. After the age of 40, that anchor muscle has typically been adapting to your posture for 2 decades or more. 20 years of sitting patterns, 20 years of movement habits, 20 years of the muscle gradually reshaping itself around whatever position you hold most often. For most people, that position is flexion, the body curled slightly forward, the lower back rounded, the anchor muscle shortened and stuck. Stuck is the right word. Not injured, not torn, stuck. The tissue has remodeled itself into a shorter resting length, and it now treats that shorter length as normal. The problem is that everything attached above it, and there is a lot attached above it, adjusts accordingly. That's level 5. The fixed point shifted. Everything downstream shifts with it. Let me be precise about what's happening at the product mention point. Around 30% of people watching this will leave before the next level. So I want to say this clearly. The single exercise I'm about to walk you through at level 1 addresses one component of this chain. The full sequence, all 5 levels, in the right order, with the right hold times and the right progressions, is what I put together in the Connected Face protocol. The link is in the description. If you want the complete system with the diagrams and the 30-day tracking sheet, it's there. But what I'm giving you today stands on its own. This video alone changes how you understand what's happening. Level 4, the transmission line. From that anchor in your lower back, the tension doesn't jump, it travels. There's a wide, flat band of connective tissue. Imagine it as a thick belt of material running from your pelvis up to the middle of your back. And this belt is the transmission line. It connects your lower back anchor to the muscles that run along your entire spine. Here's where it becomes relevant to your face. Those spinal muscles don't stop at your neck. They run all the way up to the base of your skull. One continuous column of muscle and fascia from your lower back to the bone behind your ear. When the anchor below shortens, this entire column receives the signal. It's like pulling one end of a rope. The other end responds, even if the rope is 6 feet long. And this is where most people's understanding stops, because most people were never told the rope exists. Historically, even within physical therapy, the lower back and the neck were treated as separate complaints. Someone would come in with neck stiffness and get neck treatment. Someone would come in with lower back pain and get lower back treatment. The idea that the neck stiffness might be a downstream effect of the lower back, that treating the neck alone is addressing the symptom rather than the source, is something that only gained traction in the last 20 to 25 years of clinical practice, and it still hasn't fully reached the cosmetic side. So your face, which everyone treats as a cosmetic concern, is receiving tension from a transmission line that begins in your lower back and travels through your entire spinal column. And nobody drew this line for you, because the specialists who treat faces don't study lower backs, and the specialists who treat lower backs don't study faces. A woman in her early 60s once described it to me like this. She said she'd spent $11,000 on her jawline over a 6-year period. Fillers, threads, one minor surgical tightening, and every single result faded faster than the provider predicted. Every time, the tissue sagged back. She came in asking about her neck. I looked at how she sat. Her lower back was rounded forward in a way that had been there for so long, she didn't feel it anymore. The anchor was pulling. The transmission line was carrying that pull upward, and her face was receiving the end result of a problem that no one who touched her face had ever examined. That's how the chain works when you can't see it. The effect shows up in the mirror, the cause lives where the mirror can't reach. Level 3, the relay station. At the very top of that spinal column, right where your spine meets your skull, there's a group of small muscles, 4 of them, packed tightly at the base of your skull. These muscles control the fine movements of your head, the subtle tilts, the small adjustments you make thousands of times a day without thinking. But they also serve as a relay point. Tension coming up the spinal column from below reaches these muscles and gets redirected. Some of that tension continues forward, over the top of the skull. Some of it travels downward along the front of the neck. And some of it embeds itself directly into the base of the skull, tightening the tissue that connects to the top of your head. Put 2 fingers at the base of your skull, right where your spine meets the bone. Press gently into the muscle on either side. If you feel hardness, ridges, thick bands, spots that feel tender when you press, you're feeling the relay station under load. That hardness isn't a neck problem. It's the accumulated tension from the entire chain below it converging at this narrow crossing point. Historically, battlefield surgeons were the first to notice this connection, not because they were studying aging, because they were treating head wounds. During the major wars of the early 20th century, surgeons who operated on scalp injuries noticed something odd. The tissue of the scalp behaved differently depending on where the patient had been wounded below the neck. A soldier with a lower back injury had tighter scalp tissue on the same side. A soldier with an intact lower body had more pliable tissue overall. The surgeons documented this, but it stayed in surgical journals for decades. Nobody connected it to anything cosmetic. That surgical observation from wartime maps directly onto what I see in modern clinical settings. The relay station at the base of the skull doesn't generate the tension, it concentrates it. And once concentrated, it sends that tension in two directions that both affect your face. Let me follow the first direction, forward, over the skull, towards your forehead. That's level 2. Actually, before I trace that path, I need to back up for a moment, because there's a layer between the relay station and your face that most people have never heard of, and skipping it would mean level 2 doesn't make sense. Covering your entire skull, from the ridge above your eyebrows, over the top, to the base at the back, there's a single sheet of tough connective tissue. Think of it as a helmet made of fabric, sitting between your skin and your bone. This sheet is what connects the back of your head to the front of your head structurally. When the relay station at the base of the skull tightens, this sheet receives that tension and distributes it across the entire dome of your head. Level 2, the scalp layer. When that sheet tightens, when it receives months and years of accumulated tension from the relay station below, it does something specific to your forehead and your temples. It pulls backward. The tissue at your hairline gets drawn toward the back of your head by a fraction of a millimeter. That sounds negligible, and for a single day, it is. Over a decade, it is not negligible at all. That fraction compounds. The forehead tissue gradually loses its forward resting position. The brow drops. The upper eyelid heavies. This is where the progressive analogy needs to shift. I described the body earlier as a tensioned cable system, an engineering frame. That works for understanding force and transmission, but at this level, the dynamics become more like a territorial situation. Imagine two forces competing for the same piece of ground. The front of your face, the muscles that lift, that animate, that hold your expressions, is one force. The posterior pull coming from behind, through the scalp sheet, from the relay station, from the spinal column, from the anchor in the lower back, that's the opposing force. And the ground they're fighting over is the tissue of your face itself. After 40, the posterior force has the advantage. It has structural momentum built over decades. The anterior force, the muscles of facial expression, weakens with age naturally. So it's a contest that the back of your body is winning, and the face is the territory that shows the loss. A man I spoke with, retired engineer, 71, put it in his own terms. He said, "I always thought my face was falling. You're telling me it's being pulled." That distinction matters more than it sounds. Falling implies gravity and inevitability. Pulling implies a source and a mechanism, and mechanisms can be addressed. A woman, 58, a yoga instructor who'd been practicing for 30 years, told me something that stuck. She said she'd always had flexibility in her hamstrings, her hips, her shoulders, but she'd never once stretched the tissue at the base of her skull or the muscles in her lower back in a way that considered the connection between them. 30 years of practice, and the chain between her lower back and her face had never been part of a single session, because nobody taught it that way. That captures the scope of this problem. It's not that the information doesn't exist, it's that the information exists in separate rooms that never talk to each other. Now let me take you to level 1. This is the level that restructures everything. Level 1, the jaw connection. At the front of your neck, from your collarbone to the underside of your chin, there is a thin sheet of muscle. Not a thick, powerful muscle, a thin one, wide. It sits just below the skin, covering the entire front of your throat. When you clench your jaw and look in the mirror, you can sometimes see vertical bands appear on your neck. That's this muscle. Here's what makes it level 1. This muscle connects directly to the tissue of your lower face, the corners of your mouth, the line of your jaw, the skin under your chin. When this muscle tightens, when it receives the accumulated tension from the chain above and behind, it pulls downward on the lower face. Not metaphorically, structurally, measurably, downward. And it receives its tension signal from the front of the neck, which receives its signal from the scalp sheet, which receives its signal from the relay station, which receives its signal from the spinal column, which receives its signal from the anchor in your lower back. 5 levels, 1 continuous pull. In the face is where the pull arrives. This is why the fillers don't hold. This is why the threads loosen. This is why the procedures that target only the face produce temporary results. They're adding volume or lifting tissue against a structural force that is still active, still pulling, still transmitting tension from a source that nobody addressed. It's like inflating a tire that has a slow leak. You can fill it every morning, but until you find the hole, you'll be filling it forever. Let me give you the diagnostic. 3 checks. Each one targets a different level of the chain, and what you find will tell you where your specific pattern sits. Check number 1, the anchor check. Stand up straight against a wall. Your heels, your hips, your shoulder blades, and the back of your head should all touch the wall. Now slide your hand behind your lower back. If you can fit more than the thickness of your flat hand between your lower back and the wall, your anchor muscle has shortened. The curve is excessive. The chain starts under tension from here. Hold that position for 10 seconds and notice whether it's effortful. If pressing your lower back toward the wall feels like work, the muscle has adapted to a shortened position. Check number 2, the relay check. Sit in a chair. Let your hands rest on your thighs. Drop your chin slowly toward your chest and stop when you feel the first stretch at the base of your skull. Not a big stretch, just the first sensation. How far did your chin drop? If your chin is still 3 or 4 inches from your chest when the stretch begins, your relay station is tight. The muscles at the base of your skull are holding accumulated tension. Now press 2 fingers into the muscles at the base of your skull on either side and hold for 20 seconds with gentle pressure. If those muscles feel hard, ropey, or tender, you've confirmed the relay is loaded. Check number 3, the jaw connection check. Sit upright. Place one hand flat on your chest, just below your collarbone. With your other hand, gently pinch the skin on the front of your neck, halfway between your chin and your collarbone. Pull it gently away from your body, not hard, just enough to feel the tissue stretch. Now turn your head slowly to one side. If the tissue under your fingers feels thick, resistant, or you can feel vertical cords, the front of neck muscle is engaged. It's participating in the downward pull. What those 3 checks tell you depends on the pattern. If check 1 is positive, but checks 2 and 3 are fine, your chain starts at the anchor and hasn't fully transmitted yet. You're early. The intervention is at the lower back. If checks 1 and 2 are positive, the tension has reached the relay station and is beginning to cross into the scalp layer. You need to address both the anchor and the relay. If all 3 checks are positive, the full chain is active. The pull is reaching your face, and the protocol needs to start from the bottom and work upward, in sequence, not random order. Because releasing the jaw connection without first releasing the anchor simply removes the symptom without addressing the source. A woman, 73, retired teacher, told me she'd done the anchor check and started laughing. She said she could fit her entire forearm between her lower back and the wall. 25 years of desk work had reshaped her anchor so dramatically that the transmission line had been under constant tension for longer than she'd been retired. She did the relay check next and couldn't drop her chin 2 inches before the stretch hit. The chain was fully loaded, and her face, she said, had aged faster than any other part of her body. Now she understood why. The 3 exercises that address this, one for each level, follow a specific logic. You start at the anchor. You spend 2 minutes on the lower back release, lying on the floor with your knees bent, rocking your pelvis slowly to lengthen the anchor muscle back toward its designed resting length. Small movements, nothing dramatic. You're not stretching a rubber band. You're asking a muscle that's been holding for years to gradually let go. Then you move to the relay. Sitting upright, you place a tennis ball or a rolled up sock at the base of your skull and lean gently into a wall. 30 seconds of pressure, then reposition slightly and repeat. The goal is not to crush the tension. It's to signal the muscles that they can release their grip. 3 positions, 30 seconds each. Then, and only then, you address the jaw connection. Tilt your head back gently, just enough to feel the front of your neck stretch. Open your mouth slightly. Hold for 45 seconds. The thin muscle at the front of your throat receives the signal that the chain behind it has released, and it follows. You may feel a subtle shift in the tissue under your chin within the first session. The structural change takes weeks, but the tissue response begins immediately. That's the sequence. Anchor first, relay second, jaw connection third. 3 exercises under 6 minutes total. Every morning or every other morning if daily feels like too much at the start. I traced 5 levels of connection for you today. From the anchor in your lower back, to the transmission line along your spine, through the relay station at the base of your skull, across the sheet covering your scalp, and down to the thin muscle that pulls your jaw and lower face downward. I gave you a 3-point diagnostic to assess where your chain is loaded. And I gave you a protocol that starts at the source, not the symptom. If any of that changed how you understand what's happening in your mirror, if the distance between your lower back and your jawline feels shorter now than it did 50 minutes ago, I've done what I came here to do. A like helps this reach the next person whose face is being pulled by a muscle they never knew existed. A comment telling me which check surprised you most helps me understand what to investigate next. And if this is the first time you've heard someone trace the chain this far, there's a subscribe button that means you'll see it when I trace the next one. One more thing before you go. Put your hand on your lower back, right now. Feel the muscle on either side of your spine. That muscle has been talking to your face for years, through a transmission line, through a relay station, through a sheet of tissue over your skull, and through the thin muscle at the front of your throat. It's still talking. The only difference is that now you can feel what it's been pulling. Sit with that for a moment. Your hand on the source, your awareness on the destination. The chain between them is yours to work with now.